Sureshji, Balaji, and I also know Pradeepji and many others would feel that a great injustice has been done to them by not allowing them to speak what they must have felt like speaking. And I can understand that because there is so much in these two shlokas, so much written by Swamiji, so much written by Acharya himself. And on the top of it, so much is the importance of this. Gurudeva, in a sweeping stroke in the 3 pages, has unfolded a huge amount of jewels of Vedanta, each one of that which we intend to or need to really think in a deep manner to understand it. So the situation is something like a very hungry man entering for the sake of 2 morsels of food into a place, and the place is full of delicacies. So all that happens is he just keeps moving from one place to other place. But somehow Kalam is our enemy. We have to fit everything into some time. So I would like to take a cue from what Sureshji beautifully explained, which is called Upakrama Upasamvara, the proper meeting of beginning and end of a scripture, which is a classical sign of a grantha. A grantha, to get the weight of divinity, must have the Shadalingas. One of them is Upakrama Upasamhara. So here the word Ashochan, this is how it starts. And as Sureshji rightly said, in the 18th Adhyaya, 66th Shloka, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, Ahamta Sarva Papibhyo Moksha Vishyami Ma Shuchaha. Shuchaha it ends. Ma Shucha, Ashocha. Ashocha, Ma Shucha. Shok mat karo. Don't grieve. Don't have pain in your life. Why? Pain is not worth having. But our experience is exactly opposite of that. There is nothing in our life except pain. Shok is the tragedy of my life. My canvas is painted with the black color of shok. And here the Lord is saying that, why are you grieving? And don't grieve. The center point of the problems of life, which can be collectively termed with a composite word called shok, has been emphasized here. And the Lord is directly hitting the bullseye, the issue of human life, with the word that Ma Shuchaha. And for that you need to become Panditaha. And once you become a Panditaha, there will not be any shok. Another important aspect that is beautifully elucidated by Gurudeva, and which we need to keep in mind, is for the shoka, we intend to retire the shoka by the immediate solution, because we look towards the shoka as an immediate cause. I don't have 100,000 dirham. Immediate cause we see. And the solution we seek is, if I get 100,000 dirhams, problem is done. Is it not that from beginning till end, we are just thinking that this problem will get over and then I'm done? In fact, in a very sarcastic manner, we are done. Why? Because we always think shok as a temporary phenomena and try to douse the fire with temporary firefighting equipment. This is a typical human mind's solution to the human mind's problem. Our intellect being so limited, alpa buddhi, we cannot think of, as Gurudeva says, a good doctor tries to find out the etiology, the cause, and gives a causative remedy. A bad doctor gives symptomatic relief. We are there for symptomatic. There is a headache, I will take an aspirin. But the headache is because of the tumor inside the brain. It will never get cured unless the tumor is removed. In the similar manner, the Karana Mimamsa, going to the main or the root cause. And that is why Gurudeva has eulogized Shankara for the Bhashyam when he starts here. It goes almost into a couple of pages, and Suresh time and again told that we must get into the lines and every depth of that, because he has explained everything about what is Sankhya, he has explained about what is Yoga and Sankhya difference, he has explained about how Karma and Jnana Yoga cannot be, Eka Samuchayavada cannot be there. All those explanations are very, very fundamental, and that is why Gurudeva has taken pains to mention specifically, to quote from Shankara, and he has said, now finding no means other than self-knowledge for the deliverance of Arjuna. No means. And then if Arjuna's grief and our grief is not far different, his is at a higher level, ours is at a lower level, but the fact remains that no grief in this samsara is possible to be overcome by only one remedy, and that remedy is self-knowledge, Atmajnanam. We are trying to do everything other than Atmajnanam to get rid of our problems. That is the reason why we are where we are. The target is somewhere else, the arrow is hitting somewhere else. In fact, if some of us are absolutely 360-degree opposite in terms of hitting the bullseye, because self-knowledge is the solution for the problem that we are facing, effect of which is shoka. That what is a shoka for us becomes a shochan for the realized soul. Tukaram Maharaj says, I went to go for finding the sorrow in my life and I came empty-handed. I could not get anything. Gurudeva in his entire life never had, never, the word is very important, never ever had any kind of sorrow. He stayed with us. He delivered lectures with us. He had hunger. He had food the way we ate. He came, he traveled, everything he did as we did. The basic difference was we were full of sorrows in spite of attending and listening to him. And he was always beyond sorrow. The shoka was not there. And that is the reason why the focus has to be on one issue. All the problems, right from child's admission to the required money to the required health, and all that ultimately gives only one tint, one color, one hue, that is shoka. So work has to be done only on shoka, and the work can only be done irrespective of which religion you belong to. Atma Jnanam. You may have faith in anything, you may have belief of anything, but Atma Jnanam is the only remedy. So now the disease is identified, a remedy is identified, and this has to be put now into the dhi. Dhiyo yona prachodayat. Bhagavad Gita is telling that first plant these two things in your mind, that all your problems can be termed into two alphabets, shok, and all your solutions are only in one word, Atmajnanam. And that is why Gurudeva then starts with his what adjective can we use? There is no adjective left. Illustrious, mellifluous, all those are language attributes. Those are too short to describe what he has said. Let us try to at least take some of the kernels of the sweetness of Gurudeva's elucidation and enjoy that, because we might get waylaid by the way he has said it, but that's not the more important thing. First thing he says that when we rightly diagnosed Arjuna's dejection, it is not very difficult for us to realize, though its immediate cause is the challenge of war. Immediate cause, naimittik karan. The son is not listening to me, the daughter is not getting married into proper house, the son-in-law is not behaving properly. Naimittik karan, the boss is not talking to me, I did not get promotion, I have been always deprived, etc., etc., etc. Naimittika karan. His condition of mental torture is only a symptom of deeper disease. सवाल ये नहीं कि शीशा टूटा या नहीं, सवाल ये है कि पत्थर कहाँ से आया. What is the beej, seed cause? And then Gurudeva comes with the sweeping statement, a statement that can perhaps take a couple of days to do chintanam. The ego rises when the pure self is not recognized. This deep-seated ignorance veils the divinity. Avaranam. Balaji Maharaj is to said about Avaranam. Avaranam, we are not aware of who we are. Two aspects are there for the fallacy. For the mistake, there are two aspects. One, I don't know who I am, the first mistake. And because I don't know who I am, I think I am somebody else. Second fallacy. There is a beggar. He doesn't know that he's a beggar. So that's the first problem. But he thinks that he's a king. Second problem. So one is called avaranam. He doesn't know he's a beggar. And vikshepa, projection, projectile. What is vikshepa? That I am a king. What is our problem? I am a divinity by itself, not a human being, not an ego, not a jiva. So first of all, I don't know that I am Brahman is of my avaran. And what is my vikshepa? I am Dr. Jadhav. I am so and so, I am learned, and I try to speak well, and there are some people who say you speak very well, and all. This is all vikshepa. In other words, stupidities arising out of ignorance are vikshepa. And stupidities have no limit. Einstein has said that infinity and stupidity both don't have limit. I'm sure of infinity, but I'm not sure of stupidity. So how many projections you can make about yourself? We can see our daily talk, our speech, if it is recorded. You don't know who I am. If I decide, I will do that. You know how much I have done, how much hard work I have, all that I, whatever is punctuated with I, is all vikshepa. So Gurudeva says that all the projection of reality, a positive misconception, and it's a positive egocentric idea that he is conditioned by his own body, mind, and intellect, is the true state of Arjuna's delusory attachments. The true seed of attachment is thinking that I am BMI. In the commentary that we are reading here of Gurudeva, which requires at least perhaps 10 to 15 times of reading again and again, because the seed of BMI chart is in this. Gurudeva's mind, when he was thinking of delivering Gita discourses, the seed, how it came for BMI, those traces we can see in the commentary here, because here he is talking about avidya, avarana, and vikshepa. The ignorance leading to veiling of divinity, causing projection of stupid vikshepas. Then he says, grief and dejection are the price that delusion demands from its victim. What a statement. Are you under the avarana? Yes, sir, I am under the avarana. If you are under the avarana and vikshepa, you shall be given two things free, dejection and grief. Why? They come as a package. But I don't want, no, there's no question of you wanting or not. Are you considering yourself as a jiva? Then dejection and grief is a free gift to you, and you have to take it. It is an highest amount of stupidity to be a jiva and be away from dejection and grief. They are inseparable. Lord Buddha, the first cardinal truth that he spoke is, life is full of sorrow. He directly mentioned it because he said life means jiva and dukkha, they're always united. No, but I want to be a jiva, I want to be an egocentric character, and yet I want to be happy. That is what we are doing. बस थोड़ा चैन चाहता हूँ, चैन की नींद चाहता हूँ, खुशी चाहता हूँ, this I want, that I want, but I want to remain jiva. What Gurudeva is trying to say, that there is no way you can be blissful if you are Dr. Jadhav. That means if you are identifying yourself with as a jiva, till the time you think you are what you are, you will never be happy. Because that is a demand of the delusion. So a deluded soul, a drunken person, is so drunk that he is not able to walk. And his determination is, I will walk in the straight line and go to my home. Never possible. To get over with that delusion, that is where the great secret of Raja Guhya Jnana, now the Krishna, the Lord himself, is going to open. If at all somebody decides to exact some fees for reading the Gita, This shloka will demand at least couple of billion rupees, couple of $1 billion. Why? It is giving the final solution, and yet it is coming free because Lord is compassionate. He's giving it to everyone. The problem is we are not interested in this. Why? Because we are so happy with our problems. अच्छा लगता है when the baby comes to me. अच्छा लगता है when the wife and my family and we on the tour, and अच्छा लगता है, and then suddenly we say it's all so bad. This is called addiction. We are addicted to the sorrow. A drunkard, when he's not drinking, he says, I swear, not again. By evening, again to the pub. Ours is the same story. No sorrow. And now I'm going to get a final rid of sorrow. So Friday morning, 2 hours, again back to the sorrow. Why? There is no sincerity in the heart of any kind. Exercise is only happening here. Intellectual exercise is happening at an intellectual level. So you get intellectual mukti, not the real mukti. This is called infatuation. We infatuate ourselves by reading scriptures that, I'm reading scriptures, so I'm almost done. Sir, you are not done. You are not even started. That is why Gurudeva then comes, does the eternal spirit. Now Gurudev is talking about body, mind, intellect. The secret from where the BMI chart originated is in this thing. The eternal spirit in a man asserting its false relationship with body, deha tadatmya. Here he has used the word for Chaitanya, eternal spirit. Again, as a master English orator, he again changes that spirit as the perfect principle in life playing in the field of mind. And when it comes to intellect, divine spark of light, which assumes false identity with the intellect. So that means body, mind, intellect, all three are alive and kicking simply because of the same divine spark. Yet, borrowing from the divine spark, body thinks of relationship with the body, deha tadatmya, and the relationship is a bondage. At the mind level, it becomes completely drenched into the emotions. And at intellectual level, it just thinks of hopes and desires, ambitions and ideologies. Asha, Ichha, Mahatvakanksha and Vicharadhara. These are intellectual exercises. So which are preoccupations of intellect. This is what the problem is for all of us. So that is why the self thus getting reflected in the intellect, the body and the senses is the ego, which is the victim of world of objects, feelings and ideas. Gurudeva in one statement has spoken about the Chidabhas, the Kutastha, giving the reflection into the Antakarana as Chidabhasa. That Chidabhasa, along with the mind or the Buddhi, together acting as a Jiva, identifying with body, mind and the body, mind and the intellect, ultimately looking for objects, feelings and ideas, is the story, is the kaifiyat, is the postmortem of the sorrow. Gurudev has done the postmortem here. And that is why he says, what needs to be known is not understood. And what is not to be understood is taken as understood. So there is a Brahma, Adhyasa, misappropriation or misapprehension and non-apprehension. When something is taught to a student by a teacher, it teaches to 30, 40 students. Some of them are there who don't understand anything. That is called agrahana. Nothing went inside. Some of them understand, but not what the teacher taught, something different than that, which is called anyatha grahana. So there are some who are non-apprehension, not understood. So we don't understand what Atman is. That is akhyati. We don't understand what the Atman is. That is the first stage of the problem. Then we consider this Atman to be something else, anyatha khyati. The rope was not understood in its original form. So the first problem that happened is he did not understand the rope, non-apprehension, and then thought rope to be snake. Anyatha khyati, misapprehension. We are suffering from both. That is what Gurudeva talks here. Then he says, Gurudeva has given a clue so critical for us that why the shoka comes in our life. Gurudeva says, the shock comes in our life simply because, in his own words, we view life at every level of our personality and come to our own conclusions. Thus, we have a physical estimate of the world at our body level, isn't it? Physical estimate. What is, how big is the world? My physical estimate is, this is one city, there is one city in India, and this in a very Santa form. Nowhere in our mind we ever think of how many satellites are there for Jupiter. That's not scope of my thinking. So whatever I think is my world. So my physical estimate of world is a very poor, limited apprehension of the illusory thing that is around me, which I call reality. So my physical estimate itself is from my whatever my body can do. My body cannot understand what's happening in California, so I don't know. Limitation of the body. Then he says physical estimate of the world from our body level, which is quite distinct from the emotional picture of life from our mental level. Emotional picture from the mental level, meaning a physical object may be in front of me, but what that object is emotionally to me, that is important. There is a child crying. Doesn't bother me, but the child happens to be my child. What happened? Physically, object is same. It changed at mental level, emotional level. Why? A bondage got developed. Physically, I did see there is a child, but since it is not mine, it hasn't affected my mind at all. In fact, I every day switch on a TV and see all the migrant laborers walking without food, and I say, oh, so bad. More than that doesn't happen. Just imagine that my own child is there as immigrant labor. What will happen? Inconsolable crying. Immediately going to help. What? Emotional. So it affects emotional picture of the life, and also an intellectual concept of life that is at the level of intellect. That means every now and then the world is getting interpreted at three levels from us. When we are in close contact with our fiancé, all the three things are happening. The physical contact, the mental, emotional tie-up, and intellectual hooking up. All three happen. And that is why we say, what the world it was. What? Pata hi nahi pada 2 ghante kaise gaye when I was on dating. What happened? The world was not existing for you. Only three things existed at body level, at emotional level, at intellectual level. Again, coming back to the BMI chart. The perceiver, the feeler, and the thinker. We don these three hats and move on this world. Sometimes we try to don all the three together, sometimes only one, sometimes two. So if anybody asks me, sir, who are you? What is your name? We don't have to say our name. We have to say, sir, I am a perceiver. Why? I am perceiving a body. Sir, I am a feeler. I am crying, sir. So sad. I did not get, they cut my salary this month. I am a feeler. I think this world is in a hopeless state. Sir, I am a thinker. I am creating an ideology, vicharadhara. Shifting from this to this to this, this to this to this. Perceiver, feeler, thinker, PFT, perceiver, feeler, thinker, body, mind, intellect, body, mind, intellect. Avartana. In the storm of these three identities, we are moving, and that is our estimate. So that means, Gurudev further says, the imperfection that I see in the physical object will fail to give me misery if I successfully gild it with my emotional appreciation. Similarly, an object which is physically abhorrent and mentally shameful will still fail to stimulate me with any sorrow if I can appreciate it with my intellectual level. For every saintly person and sages, world is full of all good things. Arjuna Drushti and Duryodhana Drushti. Arjuna said, there is nothing wrong and bad in this world. Duryodhana said, there is not a single soul who is good in the world. The difference in the vision was simply because at body, mind, and intellect level, false identification, misapprehension was not there, and because of which ekatram sarvam anupashyati. Everybody seems to be epitome of the same Chaitanya Tattvam. That is why there is nothing shameful. There is no dvandva, there is no good, bad. That's why if you ask Gurudeva, somebody said that, Gurudeva, you spoke so well today, I was mesmerized. Gurudev said, you were, even I was. Means what? Sukhe santosha na yave, dukhe vishada na bhajave. Dhaneshwar Maharaj, what he says? Don't get flattered by what is happening good and don't get dejected by that. Means dvandvatitam gagana sadrusham. One who is dvandvatitam, no duality is affecting them. And this, the root cause of that, not understood by Arjuna, he was, and that is why Lord did not say that, look, I will tell you how to do this war. First you take care of Bhishma, then you, no, that would have been a tatkalika upaya. Bhagwan was not interested in tatkalik upaya. War वगैरह तो कर ही लेगा. See the difference between the things. Gurudeva went for the remedy of the cause to Himalayas, and then the rest of the life was easy for him. We are trying to see the remedy for the life's problem in life, and we do not go to the root cause. That is why we are here. The only difference between Gurudeva and us is he went right towards the target. We are going always away from the target, thinking that is we are walking in the darkness and we are saying one day sun will come. It will never come. The thought process has to undergo 360-degree transformation. Why? Because you're adhomukha and abhimukha. Abhimukha is to face. You're facing in a wrong direction. And that is where it is coming when he says Krishna is advising Arjuna to renounce physical, emotional, and intellectual estimates of his teacher and his grandsire. Gurudeva so beautifully has given that Bhishma and Drona both are entities carrying something which will never go away. Bhishmacharya fought on the Kaurava side, but do we have less reverence for him as Bhishma Pratijna, as a person of determination, as grandsire? It is still there. Karna went on the wrong side, but was aggrieved because of certain things, viewed the whole thing in a wrong way, went to Kaurava's side, tried to fight, but have we forgotten Karna's Datrutva? No. Datrutva is the identification of Karna which will never die. That Karna will die which came in a physical form and fought. In other words, that Datrutva or the scintillating rays that emanate from a body are ultimately nothing else but the divinity that is coming. So divinity never dies. For the sake of tradition, we may do Jayanti and Punyatithi of Gurudeva. But is it a principle that will die? And if it is a principle that is dying, then why it is inspiring us every day? What it means is, a body called Gurudeva presently is not perceptible by my senses. Fair enough, understood. Why? Because that is the nature of the body. But the divinity of Gurudeva, which itself means divine spark, can it ever be challenged for getting destroyed? It can never be. Once that is clear, then because you are embodied Arjuna, there are certain situations that have come in front of you. But I don't want to kill anybody, then you should have done something not to be born. Deha dhare ka dand hai, sab kahu ko hoy. But once you have embodiment, you're bound to face this problem. No, I want to have a body, but anandam, not possible, sir. The very fact that you have a body presupposes that you'll be facing a sorrow. In fact, one can stretch it forward saying that facing sorrow is the only function that you do when you are embodied soul. And the art of facing the sorrow is what you learn from the sadhana so that sorrow doesn't affect you. Shokanvit hona, to get affected by sorrow, is likely to happen. Whether you will get affected by sorrow or not, that is the only difference. Absence of sorrow is not the difference. Gurudeva did get the pain when a nail bite him. A small nail went inside his thigh when he was delivering a lecture. So he must have got the pain, otherwise he would have been a dead wood. No, he was not a dead wood. The pain was there. He realized. Then he continued delivering the lectures. When he got up, there was a blood on the floor. What does it mean? Shok was there. The pain was perceived. Shokanvita nahi, not engulfed by the sorrow. This is the art. What Lord is trying to tell Arjuna is, Arjuna, what you feel, shok and all that, that is there. He will die, he will die, he will be killed. That is there. Shokanvit mat hona. And why? Because it is superfluous. How superfluous? That is what I am going to tell you now. That is Atmajnanam. Shok is superfluous. No. Even the happiness is superfluous. Why? When only Shoka is there, as a counterpart, happiness is there. When Shoka is not there, can single entity be called? When there is no darkness, how will you define light? There is no definition of light. That is the reason why the Atma Tattvam is called Anandam, not Sukham. Sukham has a Dukkham as an antonym. Sukham, Dukkham. There is no opposite word for Anandam. Why? It is a unique state. Unique state. Describe it, cannot be described, because moment you describe Dvandva, and that is being the reason. Here he says, continuity of change is the nature of finitude, and it is this change that we understand as death. Swamiji has given the definition of death. What is the definition of death? Continuity of change is the nature of finitude, and it is this change we constitute as death. Arey, hum finitude hai. We are alpa jivi. All the jivas, all the procreated things under the Lord's thing are bound to change, and these changes are happening every kshanam. Vijnanavad of Buddhism, Kshana Bhangurovad it is called. Everything is Kshana Bhangura, means every moment things are changing. Some changes you perceive, some you don't, because you don't have the buddhi. We perceive the change only when we die at the age of 70, but my cells are dying even when I'm speaking. I don't realize it. I was so small when I was born. I became so big. The change I did not realize. Why? Because simultaneously everybody is observing change. So what you call as birth, what you call as a death is nothing else but change. Change in visible form, paida ho gaya. Happy birthday to you. Mar gaya, it is so sad. May the soul rest in peace. Soul is always in peace, sir. Body has to rest in peace. The soul never requires peace. But we say soul rest in peace. Nothing has happened. From one room, the person has gone to the other room. We say, oh my God, he left the room. No, there are rooms. And second thing is, whether you say or not, changing the rooms is the rule of the nature. Why? Finitude. That is why continuity of change is the nature of finitude. To mourn for a change is not to understand the nature of finitude. And it is as unintelligent as to complain of light in the sun. What an analogy. पूरा कोशिश जो चल रहा है किसके लिए? अमर हो जाओ. I don't want to die. We say, I don't want to die. Die you shall. Why? Brahma also dies. Because that is the change of finitude. And at the same time, the scripture says, you will never die. Why? You are Atman. As Atman, you will never die. As body, you shall die. Our problem is exactly opposite. I don't mind if I am dead to the Atman, but as a body, I want to live. Nahi ho sakta. It is not possible, sir. Your understanding is completely 360 degrees wrong. As a body, you cannot live. As Atman, you cannot die. And once this is from the rooftops, Gurudeva has said this, then is it not our duty to find out how? The same problem, Arjuna. How? And then the Lord is saying that first, take my first statement, Ashok Chand. Don't grieve because there is nothing to be grieved for. There is no grief. You are presuming the grief and grieving. So first understand that. And the solution for that is to know Atma-jnana. There is sun everywhere. And you are asking me where? You have to come out of the dark room that you are in. Just come out and there will be sun. So in the darkness, you are trying to find out how can I solve the problem of darkness? You will never. So your problem is darkness. And for that, you need to come out of darkness. Coming out of darkness is Atma-jnana. And once you come out of darkness and see the light, you will say, what is darkness? I don't understand. Similarly, you will become Shoka-rahita, Ma-shucha. When you will come to me, Sarva Dharman Parityajya, leave all that you have, all identification of yours, and then you will understand how Shok is being taken care of. Then the next mantra, again a cardinal thing has been told by Lord here. At any time, na tu ev aham jatu, na asam, na tvam, na ime, janadhipa. It is not that at any time in the past, indeed I was not, nor were you, nor these rulers of the mind, nor verily shall we all ever cease to be hereafter. This is a diametrically opposite statement to our understanding. Samrat Akbar aaye phir chale gaye. Nothing of that kind. They were there. It was never that they were not there. But they were not there in the name that we know there. There will be no another Akbar coming. But Akbar as an Upadhi is gone. Shivaji as a Upadhi is gone. Shivaji as Atma Tattvam, Akbar as Atma Tattvam, it's still there. You decide what you want to see and you will see that. That is why very rarely students of philosophy are adept in employing their knowledge and practically meeting the situations of life. Now this is where Gurudeva is specifically focusing on one important point. Theoretically, Atma-jnanam, this sounds very good. It really pleases our brain. It stimulates thinking. It is creative, all that fine. But sir, when the news comes that unfortunately your son has passed away, what will happen? All of a sudden the Gita will melt. There is a discussion going on in some particular section in a company that some people will be removed because of the virus. What happens? There is some amount of stress here, anxiety. Oh my God, I don't know what will happen to me. Then what happened to my status? महीने का इतना पैसा तो लगता है, फिर खर्चा कैसे होगा? And if they decide, मैं I have to go back to India, वहाँ पे भी अपना कोई अभी है नहीं. Oh la la la, Gita is gone. That is the problem. That's why Gurudeva says it is never applied. If applied, what difference does it make? What difference COVID will make? What difference death will make? What difference transfer will make? What difference poverty will make? It is still not happening to us in that manner because we are not employing it. And that is why he's referring to Charvaka. Now Gurudeva is giving a small glimpse of what all he has read, he knows, a small glimpse. In fact, we don't even read that. He's spoken about Charvaka, who only believes in Pratyaksha Jnana, and says it is false. Because you have births after births, which will continue to happen, the Sukshma Sharira, the Linga Sharira will keep taking birth, every time borrowing the light of Chidabhasa from the Kutastha, and the life will continue. Till when? Till you identify yourself with Atma-jnana, then there will be no Upadhi coming your manner. And that is why he says it is there in every religion. He is referring to theory of reincarnation, where he calls John the Baptist as Elijah. Elijah was a priest, a well-known priest. He was tortured a lot by the Israeli rulers that time. It's in Jew pantheon. He was a saintly person. And he himself had written that I shall be reborn again. And that is how Jesus himself mentioned about his guru, John the Baptist. By the way, John the Baptist and Elijah both were vegetarian for our reference. So John the Baptist, when he was referred by Jesus, he said it is nothing else but the reincarnation of Elijah. This is the same Elijah which is called Elias in Muslim. The name Elias we have heard, that is Elijah only. So this is one reference Gurudeva has given. Gurudeva has also given reference to Origen. Origen was also another saintly person in Alexandria in Egypt. He was staying in desert. That is why this statement, every man received a body for himself according to his desert in former lives. Prarabdha is talking about. This particular Origen was also a person, incidentally, a vegetarian person. Then he has also referred to Virgil and Ovid, two famous poets, philosophers of Roman period. In fact, Virgil and Ovid both were contemporary to each other. Then he is referring to one son of Islam, and this son of Islam is none else than Jalaluddin Rumi, the apostle of Sufi philosophy, the founder of Rumi school of philosophy, Jalaluddin Rumi, the founder of Darwish system, the whirling dervishes who do the sama while they keep dancing in that trance. They feel they go into meditation through the trance while doing the sama. These dervishes, they are followers of Jalaluddin Rumi, whose statement Gurudeva has mentioned there. Beautiful philosophy is there. If you read his book, is called Masnavi. If you read it, it is a treat by itself to read about it. It is absolutely Advaita Vedanta in Sufism. Then he has referred to the poets also. He has referred to Robert Browning. These are all Victorian poets. Rossetti. He has referred to Tennyson and Wordsworth. Tennyson, Lord Alfred Tennyson, few of his poems do give us glimpse of philosophical tinge in the poems. Definitely in Wordsworth's poems. In fact, it was this Wordsworth's poem by the name Excursion, which was being taught by a professor called William Hastie in Calcutta, and amongst the students was Vivekananda. And a word came in Wordsworth's poem called Excursion. The word was trance. And while explaining the trance, William Hastie said that if you want to know what trance is, please go to Dakshineshwar to see Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And that is when first time in his life, Swami Vivekananda heard the word Ramakrishna, and he went there, and we know what happened after that. So this is Gurudeva has referred to them. In fact, if we all remember, we had a poem called Daffodil, which was of Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud. He always refers to the things. He's into some different level, in transcendental level when he has composed his poetry. And Gurudeva, being a student of literature, has enjoyed the poetry from the Advaitic point of view. So we see a different kind of hue and color given by Gurudeva about the importance of reincarnation. In one stroke, Gurudeva has talked about Avarana, he has talked about Vikshepa, he has talked about Adhyasa, he has talked about reincarnation, he has talked about Upadhi, and he has also talked about the limitation of body, mind, and intellect. So much has been packed in this commentary by Gurudeva and as well as by Acharya. Very frankly speaking, these two mantras, their commentaries both by Acharya and Gurudeva, is a subject of at least 10 days study. Why 10 days study? Not for getting marks into the examination, because there lies Raja Guhya, the key to our own life. Why? Because what is our aim? My sorrow may not be as big as Arjuna. The grade differs, but the sorrow is sorrow. A beggar who does not get good food, or at least two ounces of food, the sorrow or the grief is as big as even the king. Why? Because ultimately sorrow's depth depends upon the perception of the mind. But the fact is, everyone tries to get over the grief. All our efforts in our life are for what? To get over the shock. I don't want any unhappiness. I don't want unpleasantness. We all say that, but we don't do anything for it. Why? Because what we are trying to do as a remedy for getting the sukham is actually producing more dukkham. So we must know the cause, the second cardinal truth of Lord Buddha. World is full of sorrow, and if it is full of sorrow, there must be a cause for it. So this cause is what is indicated here. And that is why Lord says, Shoka is your problem. Understand? Shoka is because of identification with body, mind, and intellect. Gurudeva had told us. Causative factor is avidya. And in order to get rid of that avidya, whatever you may try, sir, apart Atma Jnanam, there is no other way. And that is why in this narration, cause, effect, solution, all are given in one. If studied properly, in the sense mananam, if it is done with the mananam, it is possible to change the way we live. The life can become a flowering garden, provided the way it was, provided we think the way Gurudeva says. If you want Gurudeva's life as our life, then we have to really think seriously on this. And that serious thinking, deep pondering is nothing else but mananam. So we all hope and pray to Gurudeva that his blessings are there for us to prompt and inspire us and continuously make us think about how to get rid of this particular shoka which is mentioned here. Hari Om.
The chapter, the verse 12, the paragraph, it says the embodied soul set on a great pilgrimage identifies itself with various forms temporarily to gain limited but determined experiences. I thought you would explain a little more on this. Determined experiences, maybe determined who, I mean, I don't know how to ask this question as well, but if you can just elaborate a little more, not today, maybe anytime later, or if you can just explain to me later on WhatsApp or whatever, determined experiences. That's one thing. Second is the spirit, the same chapter 12, spirit remains the same, gets conditioned by different body equipments, lives through self-ordained environments. Self-ordained environments. The word self-ordained, if I could get a little more explanation on that.
Okay, we have barely a minute for explaining both the things. Fact is, we maybe in our this Patanjali Yoga Shastra, we will be coming to this. That is, what is this self-ordained? So if we say self as Atman, then Atman never ordains. So then who is that self which is ordaining? So this is something a very critical, which is called as a philosophical dilemma. It has something to do with Chidabhasa. We had seen it in a passing manner in Kathopanishada, but we will see it again when we see Patanjali Yoga Shastra. So this is one. And what is predetermination is also one aspect that we will be seeing in that, because predetermination usually is referred as prarabdham, but it is not only prarabdham. So we will come to a point where anything that is happening in our life or in this world, does it have only one karanam or many karanams? We are going to come to that point. We will cover both when we proceed with the Yoga Shastra, because it is coming as a part of Patanjali's Sutra also. Hari.